Alright, here we go. So we're going to get in here and see what we can do about trying to understand a little bit about the number system. So as you can see, I have set up a couple little miners here. They're going to bring items into the center here. We use the vac to suck them up and put them on the conveyor belt for us. And then those items, we obviously want the furnace to turn on, smelt them, and spit out an ingot. There we go. So a couple things here we'll be using. Obviously we want to know about the number system here. So we're going to throw that dude right there, and then I'm going to throw a clock on top of it. I like to use the clock just for, I like to use the minute listener, if you will. Let's see, we need to get, I already had this, maybe I didn't. Betcha I threw it out on the ground somewhere. Anyways, so what we want to do is we want to tie all these things in together to one item. And generally I like to use switches as my single point of contact. And that just kind of for turning everything on and off. What we'll do is we'll just stick the switch right there. So now everything that I want to control, I'm just going to bring to the switch. So there you go. See, we put the furnace to the switch, the clock to the switch. We'll put the number counter to the switch. We'll even put the box to the switch. We are definitely going to use this to the switch. This is going to be the thing that counts our ores. So as that thing is counting, we'll get that to display here on the number counter. And then we can set rules for when the furnace turns on. And really, I think that's probably enough. We could set, let's go ahead and bring these in here. We'll bring both these miners in. And there we go. And what I'll do is I'll put the miners on the toggle switch so that that switch can turn on and off the miners. And then two, we want a fail-safe. If this furnace runs out of fuel, we want some way to shut it off. And so what we'll do is we'll set up an event listener that if this runs out of fuel, both these miners will shut off. So now when we get in here into the program screen, let's see, object info, there's our switch. We got functions and variables, events. So basically the switch is on, it's an event listener, we'll use that. The switch is off, event listener for that. And we can use those to turn on and off the miners. So we'll use here for turning on, here for turning off, for the first miner, and then the next miner we'll do an event on, an event off. So here we go, boop. There we go. And so that'll get us turning off and on the miners. That will basically start our whole process. Because once the miners are up and running, we'll pull ore through this, and this here will be our trigger for our furnace. So let's get back in here. Now, I'll minimize that. Let's grab the number input. And so we're gonna, this gets a little tricky here, but set number of value, and then we're going to do a function for math to add. Okay, so it's going to be like this. Okay, so once the numbers are added up, we want those numbers to be displayed on our number thing. So we want those numbers to be displayed here on that device. Okay, and this is the execution it does, it set number value. Now, we want to add 1 every time that we count an ore, right? But we need to also get let's see, get variable value, and we want to get the number from the thing. So there we go. So that grays out. That tells us it's going to have whatever's on the display. Now, an event listener. No, not for that. We want an event listener for the vacuum. And so basically, every time an item is sucked through the vacuum, we want this to run. Okay, so basically it's just going to add up to 2, right? Because every time we get 2 ore, I want to reset that clock. So it's going to add 1 till we get to here. Let's see. Greater than. Okay, so we need the if statement. So now we set the number on the thing. Our next thing in the line is going to be if our number is greater than 1, and we're going to do the same thing we did earlier. We're going to go and get from the number counter the variable and the number on the face. Oh, I'm sorry, we want this to be there. So if A is greater than B, we want it to run, right? In which case, when A becomes greater than B, we want to turn on the furnace. Oh, wait, got to get that branch statement. Branch statements are like decisions. So if it runs and it is not greater, then it does nothing. But if A is greater than B, and if that's true, we turn on the furnace. There we go. Once the furnace is on, we want to we need to add or subtract. We want to subtract 2. So here we go with that. We're going to go to the number box. We're going to get that event listener. What did I grab? Oh, not storage box, this here. So the input number. I want the number from the face of it. We're going to subtract 2. There we go. And then we want that result to be set on the face. There we go. And so basically what that's telling it is anytime this becomes true, so we have the counter, this starts our process. So basically what's going to happen, that's not what I want, is every time an item is sucked up, we're going to count by 1, and we're going to set the number on the display. Okay, and then we're going to ask the question, is A greater than B? A being the face of the number counter. Okay, and if it is not, nothing happens. But if A is greater than B, the statement becomes true. It's going to pass through and turn on the furnace, and then the furnace is going to compare, or it's going to subtract 2. So whatever the number is, so we should have 2 on the screen when it turns on, and then once it turns on, it's going to subtract that 2 and then redo the name value, show current value on the number counter. Makes sense? Now we need some way to turn the furnace off. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come back here. Actually, we'll just do it right underneath here. This is where it comes on at. What we'll do is we'll say for the furnace, event listener, okay, there we go. We'll say on ingot produced. I don't know if you can see that there, but on ingot produced, okay, we are going to shut off the furnace. So every time it creates an ingot, it's going to shut right off. And it won't come back on again until it reaches at least 2 items. And then the other thing is we need an event listener for the furnace here, that if our furnace is run out of fuel or fuel is depleted, we want, as soon as the fuel is depleted, to come down here and we want to shut off these auto miners so that we don't end up with a whole pile of rocks all over the place. Does that make sense? There we go. That's kind of like our safety or our fail-safe if we run out of fuel. We will probably still get a few rocks, but the thing is it will stop mining rocks. And really that should be our process there. There we go. And we can set up display to show how many is in there, but we're not going to do that this episode here. I think we're just going to focus on just doing the simple thing. As you can see, there's a rock produced, gets sucked up, puts it on this belt. This belt here is going to take it over. And as soon as we get another rock, that should come on and start smelting. There we go. There's the second one. There we go. Oh, I should have showed the counter. I didn't even pay attention. So there we go. There's the rocks. And now we got 0. So this time when this comes through and gets counted, it should count 1. There we go. See, we got 1. The next time it comes through, it's technically going to be 2. What's going to happen though is it's going to turn the furnace on to smelt, and it's going to take away 2. So here we go. I got both there. We see it. There you go. Now we got that second rock. It reset back to 0, and that rock's ready to go. So now, because we have 2 miners here, I can turn both these miners on. And there we go. And so there you can see we got our switch. It's hooked up. Make sure it shut off over here. It did. So there we go. Now we can toggle these things on and off with a switch. You see that made a rock. This one's making a rock. There we go. Turned on because it had 2 pass through. Both these get up here. There we go. Oh, got 1. Yep. So there we go. Counter is showing how many's in there. And now we got a second one coming. Turn the furnace on. And we could probably put a delay on that to kind of make that so a little bit more efficient. But you can see every time we get a rock through there, it's going to count. And as long as that value is higher than 2, so, you know, we could have a third machine bringing in rocks, so we could technically count it up above 2.